I don't know how many other relationships any of us have in our lives
Yeah.
where we look at somebody in the face and say all the time, I don't believe you. Like, I don't think there are any other.
Well, thank you.
Mike, you're unique that
one
way.
of a kind. Yeah.
Mike, do you have any?
I approach everything that he says as a lie. And there are times that he back channels with me, and there is a sincere sounding message.
Yeah.
In this case, it was, hey, I'm going with Abby to this festival. Why don't you come out? And it'd be like a cool double date, but it's on the other side of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe you.
Okay. I've earned that. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But I'll be there, Ohana Fest with Abby. If you'd like to join us, you're invited. So
I have to articulate for you, Stugotz. I must. Your I'll be there is worth less than anybody else's.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Cody, Chris Whittingham, and Billy.
I would say everybody take note. Ohana Fest is September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd, because what will happen is this will not be discussed again before then. And then that week, Stugotz is like, I'm out of here. And then you'll be like, what do you mean? And you'll be like, I told you. So this is it. This is the notice.
You get
Everybody
me, Billy.
make note right now in your calendar. Stugotz will not be here those 3 days.
Yep. Unless I am. But thank you, Billy, because you get me. You get me in a way that no one else on this show gets me, and I appreciate that.
I know how you operate, and I know there's little throw-in things. This was the notice. You're like, I told you months ago, and like technically you did, but like kind of in an offhand way.
Yes.
In an uncertain way.
Right. And if you guys are interested in the remainder of my vacation days for the summer, Dead & Company just released their summer tour. So you'll find my vacation days right there.
And you got to go now.
You're on the tour?
Well, no, but yes, technically I am as their number one fan. But those are my vacation days, I'm telling you right now, unless they're not.
Somebody wrote in via Twitter yesterday, sort of celebrating the Elijah Craig sending Stugotz to the Masters with his dad, the correct question of why does Stugotz look older than his father? And I'm going to say Dead & Company.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good answer.
Billy, getting back to what we were talking about, do you have anyone in your life that you will look in their face and say simply the sentence, I don't believe you, who's not a toddler?
Yeah, but I mean, I can't name names because they might be listening. But yeah, no, absolutely. Like 3 or 4 people, but it's fine. You like those people because it's honest relationships. You just know they're lying to your face. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. That's not true. We'll just
I'm
keep it
honestly
moving.
lying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Witty, Chris Cody, because I don't think I have anyone else that I will simply just say I don't believe you to when they're saying something, and it's not even like it hurts his feelings. It's just sort of he's used to it because we all do it.
I actually still somewhat believe Stugotz sometimes. I have not yet been hardened enough.
Yeah.
I've not yet been hardened enough to, and like I'm still trying to figure out like what happened with the Masters this weekend. Where is he actually going to come back? And then he sent me like some commercials on Saturday. It's like, all right, he's back, we're good. But you know, I still believe somewhat in Stugotz.
He did exactly what he said this weekend. Yeah. To his credit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, but wait a minute. I mean, I thought we were going to get Jim Harbaugh, Marty Smith, and Scott Van Pelt from the Masters.
We got Scott Van Pelt, SVP. He was on yesterday.
But
how about that?
I thought from the Masters on Thursday while you were there, while the sponsor was paying for things, I thought that we were going to get more guests than just your dad.
Listen, it's a long play on Harbaugh. He should be joining us this week, actually, on Stupidity. And Marty Smith, I asked him, and he just hasn't responded. So I did my part, Dan. All you can do is ask the question, and then it's up to Marty Smith to respond, and my friend Marty has not. But the good folks at the University of Michigan have, and they said that Jim would love to talk about the Masters, his experience with his children, your experience with your dad. He would love to discuss that with you. So I am waiting. Long con, Dan.
Yeah, that's the thing is that like we should have realized right away that Augusta was not gonna like immediately bear fruit, right? Because like he couldn't even have his phone. That was about making the contacts, and this is just me kind of like covering for Stugotz not really getting anyone when he was at Augusta. Also, like Witty, I would caution you to not get in this position with Stugotz because this is like the dangerous position to be in. You know that he's a liar, right? Everybody knows that he's a liar. What you need to do, and like this is how you'll feel better about yourself, don't say, I know Stugotz is a liar, but Stugotz wouldn't lie to me. Because he absolutely will, and that's how you'll get burned. If you know that someone's a liar, you need to accept they are going to lie to everyone, including you, no matter how close you think you are to that person.
Well said, Billy.
It's the scorpion. It's the scorpion on the back of a turtle. Like you really do. You're all gonna drown. That's the most dangerous game, Woody, is the one that you are now playing, which is to exclaim, "I believe him." At any point, because even as Billy, who knows him pretty well, bets that he just gave us notice on when his vacation is in October, I would argue that what's going to happen is that date's going to get here. He's going to be sitting there, an alarm on one of our phones or one of our calendars. This may be missed too because we're not terribly organized around here sometimes, but set your alarm. An alarm will go off and we will look at that seat and Stugotz will be there and we will be able to ask him, hey, weren't you supposed to be at that festival today?
He's also privately and maybe publicly, I'm not sure, thrown out a couple of different times in passing very quickly, and then he just moves along to something else. Like, I'm taking a month off before my daughters go to college.
At least. Yeah.
But hasn't mentioned what month that is, when that month is.
Still working it out.
Exactly. So, like, there will be a month where we just don't see him. And then it'll be like, well, I told you guys I'm taking a month off for my daughter's going to college.
Thank you.
So just keep an eye out because at some point he will just disappear for a month and tell us he told us.
Also, Dead & Company are on tour for almost exactly a month.
Well, there you go. Check the dates.
I wanted to ask
It's
you.
right before college starts.
So he just told you. He just gave you vacation notice. He's going with
Spending time with Emma and Rachel before they go to college.
And
Dead
Bob
shows.
Weir and John Mayer.
City
psychedelics.
Field.
I wanted to talk to you guys about something, and Billy specifically, something that happened with Jazz Chisholm while the Marlins were playing a bunch of one-run games against San Francisco. They lose yesterday to Anaheim. They now have the worst record in the league.
That doesn't count. Last night doesn't count.
Four games in.
Yeah, small sample.
West Coast game doesn't count. Yeah.
It is only 4 games in, but the fact remains they've got the worst record.
Yeah, the
in
offense
in
just
the
doesn't.
league.
I'm with you. The offense doesn't look good.
I'm with you. Yes,
But the Dodgers are 1-2. I mean, come on.
understand.
Oh,
It's-
perspective. Nice.
It's not much of a sample.
They did have like
Stugotz.
12 hits or something on Sunday and just couldn't get any luck.
0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. But the thing that I
They
wanted,
scattered 12 hits.
yes,
I mean, look, we're playing games when we say they have the worst record, but if I were to tell you at this point in the season the Marlins would have the same record as the Red Sox, you'd probably be like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
How many games back are we?
I think we're eliminated already.
they're a half game back of the Dodgers. But the thing I wanted to ask you about Jazz Chisholm, because baseball, Stugotz, and generations and baseball players and managers, all of them have changed so much and had to change so much. Jazz Chisholm bats 9th and is told before the season, look, there's going to be some platooning here because baseball's run by computers now. Your outfielders, the manager doesn't have to do anything but manage the people because the computers tell him where to put the infielders, where to put the outfielders. It's not a game anymore of you have to do a whole lot of strategy. Math runs that game. Don Mattingly lost his position with what would become the modern day Dodgers of we have salary cap advantages or we have money advantages with a soft cap. Don Mattingly leaves the Dodgers because he doesn't do the math that well, the analytics. Now he has to learn in older age as an old-timey baseball player to deal with Jazz Chisholm being this generation and going to Twitter when he sits after hitting a home run and just retweeting a bunch of people saying that he should be playing. When he's been told in spring training that they're going to platoon all these people and they're going to be doing, just this modern math that they do in baseball that is choking some of the life out of the game, because I'm still confused every time I'm watching a baseball game and every damn time somebody hits a screamer up the middle, there's an infielder there because that's how they were playing it. It just doesn't even make any sense to me how often that happens and how disorienting it is to me. But the question I'm asking you, as we wait here for Ben Volin of the Boston Globe to join us to talk about that crazy Tom Brady of the Dolphins story, he did some legitimate reporting on it, and he's got some things that he wrote in the Boston Globe that I think Dolphin fans will find interesting. How does somebody a grandfather's age deal with somebody Jazz Chisholm's age as the sport changes? And the job is to just manage people, to cross the bridge over to where Chisholm is. And Chisholm is telling you, look, I'm a modern day player. This is how I'm going to do it. Everybody knows I'm emotional, or you see what you get, and I want to play every day. And I don't mind retweeting a bunch of stuff that's getting more and more critical, and you guys get all mad about it, and then Mattingly has to address it. But I'm asking Billy, how do you feel when you read all of that?
That was bullshit. He should have been playing Jazz. He had a big hit. This whole, everybody's going to play. Come on. The guy had a big hit. Like, let him play. You're 1-3. I guess at the time you were 1-1. Or you were 0-1. 1-1? 0-1.
I'm okay with a platoon if it's not John Birdie. Okay? Like, if this was like a guy that should be starting, maybe, but you got to get Chisholm the most. He should bat leadoff, I think. Get him the most at bats on the team so you can at least see what he is. Donnie does this thing, lefty righties, mix and matching. Like, he loves a lineup that is like, if you have a lefty starter, he wants all righties in there. It's just, I think he overthinks this lefty righty thing.
Don't you think Donnie has an idea of what he is, though?
No.
Really?
And nobody does.
Okay.
No, because
he's young.
Craig Mish put out, like, Donnie said before the season, everyone's going to play the first series of the season because he likes to do that. Like, why? Why does everybody have to play the first series of the season? Like, who cares? It's not even at home. You're on the road, and you need to make sure that people see Joey Wendell and John Birdie get their at-bats in San Francisco. Like, who gives a shit in San Francisco if they're watching them play? That's not a thing.
You guys are actually interested in the playing time part of it. That's not the part I was asking you guys about. You guys are forming the arguments on whether he should be playing or not playing. I'm saying, what is Mattingly to make of a guy going to Twitter and saying, this is how it's going to be with me. If you platoon me, I'm going to retweet a bunch of criticism. Like, what experience?
Well, what does he care? I mean, honestly, what does
Mattingly?
What does Mattingly care?
When you come from,
but he's the manager. He controls playing time.
He also unretweeted them. Like, they were out there for like a day until everybody saw it, and I was like, maybe let's not do this whole thing. But like you were saying, managers right now, math is running baseball. You need to realize how to manage your personalities. And it's like, in that aspect, he failed because you have this person that's upset making a public stink of the fact that he was benched.
I didn't even know Marlon's Twitter existed until Jazz got benched. It was
No.
like a thing. All of a sudden,
There's
I was
two of
like
them.
seeing it. I was like, oh my God, this exists. It made me feel good, honestly, that Marlon's Twitter actually exists.
There's multiple Marlins Twitters. There's at least two. Yeah. There was the pro fire sale ones. There was the anti-fire sale ones.
There's one
It's
from
a
the
whole-
UK.
Yeah, that one's.
That guy's cool.
we will get back to Marlon's Twitter in the UK in a second, but Ben Volin of the Boston Globe has done some of the reporting on this, and it is really kind of staggering how the Dolphins screwed this up. The idea that Tom Brady was going to land on their lap somehow. Somebody was going to choose the Dolphins.
By the way, Volin, also one of those Sunday morning F1 tweeters who ruined my experience with Jane Pauley and CBS
All
Sunday
right. Well,
mornings.
yesterday,
enough, Volin.
you accused Mike Ryan. We'll get to Ben Volin's F1 obsession in a second, but you accused Zach Harper yesterday of having an F1 obsession, and Zach Harper's never watched F1 and complained to Mike Ryan, like, why am I getting thrown under the bus? Who did you confuse Zach Harper with? Zach Harper of Cinephobe.
It's odd that he would tweet about something he never watches. He tweets about it all the time, Zach Harper. I don't care what anyone
All the
tells
time.
me.
Yeah, Zach Harper's full of shit. And pretending to be upset, please. Zach Harper loves Zach Harper being mentioned.
Exactly.
Zach Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some deleted tweets, Stugotz?
Perhaps.
Zach Harper has tweeted Mike Ryan.
Yeah.
And he is denying being any kind of F1 fan.
Check the timeline.
That's right. A lot of Twitter tough guys were on yesterday's show, I noticed. JJ Watt won't come on the show to confront Stugotz, but he'll tweet at him. Like, what's that about? Come on, JJ.
Yep. I invited him. I mean,
Oh my God!
That was the most.
Made
Oh my God.
skin crawl.
what was the matter, Chris?
Just so heavy-handed.
Cringy,
that's
why don't
what
you
I
come
am.
on my
I mean,
podcast?
my hands
Oh
are
my
heavy.
God.
Yeah.
Just-
I'm imagining like back in the day when a girl would give you just the slightest, hey, would you like to be my wife?
I mean, God bless football. I mean, it's the number one American football podcast in the country. I mean, it beat
All you have
Isaac.
to do is acknowledge you before you immediately ask them to join your podcast, which is the worst aspects of you and media.
A little subtlety, just a
No,
little.
he's trying to give him a platform.
So cringe.
Well, thank you guys.
Ben, forgive me for this. We'll get to you in a second. I don't mean to keep you waiting, but I have to address
Maybe.
this because The cringe for me wasn't all of that, because I saw that Adam Schefter finally published his apology, and he did so on his podcast instead of on Twitter, where he made the mistake at the expense of Dwayne Haskins and his loved ones. He did it on his podcast. He could have apologized. He could have apologized immediately, but instead he apologized on his podcast. It was on his own platform where he could get the clicks for that. But you yesterday, we started this segment talking about how little your words mean. Mm-hmm. For you to criticize J.J. Watt the entirety of his career, and then the moment he mentions you in a tweet, you're his best friend and asking him for things, like, that is what made me cringe.
I'm trying to repair a damaged relationship. You know what the world needs right now, Dan? It needs two guys who have been going at each other for many, many years. It needs those two guys to come together.
That's right.
That's
to show
what it is.
that even me and J.J. Watt could be friends.
That's
you know?
what it is. The lack of sincerity by you.
No.
That's what it was.
They should come together.
So ridiculous.
Stugotz is absolutely right, and everyone is being completely unfair to Stugotz here, where they're saying that he's 100% in the wrong. Everybody knows, Ben can tell you, as a good journalist and reporter,
Ben knows,
there's always three stories. There's Stugotz's version, there's JJ's version, and there's the truth. So we're just trying to get JJ on to kind of meet in the middle and get to that middle story.
Let's start there with Ben Volin, the obvious place of, please tell us, Ben, where you side with. Stugotz has been crushing J.J. Watt. He is the national critic who is loudest on criticizing J.J. Watt for, I think, more than 10 years now, or about 10 years. Yesterday, for the first time, J.J. Watt tweets toward his general direction, do we need to hug it out? You're still out at this. And Stugotz immediately says they're friends now. It's time for healing, and J.J. Watt should join him as soon as possible on Stupidity. Your thoughts?
But that seems to be in character for Stugotz, right? I mean, I've known him since I was working down in Florida over a decade ago, and he's the classic Twitter tough guy until you confront him, and then he wants to be your best friend. So I feel like this is perfectly in character for him.
Well, thank you, Ben.
Ben, this story, what the hell? Just what the hell?
Truth is stranger than fiction with this one. And you know what? You said the Dolphins blew this one. I don't think they necessarily, this is their fault. This is an unforeseen circumstance with the Brian Flores lawsuit.
If wait a minute, it's not their fault that their black head coach is suing them for racism. Whose fault is it?
Let's not.
They were about to do exactly what he's accusing them of doing.
If you had asked me to paint the scenario, look, hey, they're about to get Tom Brady. What screws this up? I did not have on the bingo card, their coach is suing them for racism.
Definitely a new bingo piece for them. No question. And you know, like I remember I was down there for when Payton Manning was a free agent, and there was all this buzz about are the Dolphins going to get him? And Stephen Ross really wants him. And Payton only gave them a cursory interview just as a favor to Dan Marino. Payton really wanted nothing. Whereas in this case, Brady, he bought a $20 million house in Miami Beach. He was going to come down there. He was going to be, I think, running the front office, like team president, something along those lines. He was all in, and probably also going to come out of retirement to play quarterback for the Dolphins. So the wheels were all in motion. And then perhaps the Dolphins could have seen this coming, but I don't think Brady did. An unforeseen circumstance with Brian Flores filing this lawsuit and just threw a wrench in the entire plan.
But let's keep walking down this path, because the things you're saying are batshit crazy. He was going to come in here and be Jeter and unretire as the quarterback, and somewhere within the mechanics of that, they were going to give the Tampa just a little something instead of something substantive to get Tom Brady's last years.
Well, so yeah, they were going to have to backdoor it to get Brady to actually come out of retirement to play quarterback, because the Bucs still had his contractual rights, but they don't control his rights as a team president. He can just leave the Bucs and join the Dolphins front office. So that's kind of the backdoor that they tried to sneak through. And then once Tampa moves on, they found their new quarterback. It could be the middle of August. Heck, it could be next year. They could have had to wait an entire year. But at some point, they were going to approach Tampa like, hey, look, I'm already here in Miami. You guys have already moved on. We'll just send you a second-round pick, and let's call it a day. So they were going to try to maneuver this thing through the back door. But yeah, the wheels were in motion. It was all going to happen. And Tom Brady was going to be coming down to Miami to be part of the Dolphins. I don't know if it's still in play. It still might be. We'll see if Brady, assuming he gets a new contract, if the Bucs put any more years tacked onto it, or if it's just a 1-year pay raise. So we'll see if the Miami thing is still in play in the future. But the wheels were definitely in motion, and it would have set off a big firestorm up here in New England to see Brady go to an AFC East team. It would have just reinvigorated the whole Brady versus Belichick, Brady versus Kraft. It would have turned a lot of people off up here. So maybe for Brady and his business sense, maybe it's for the best that this thing fell through, because at least he still has his fans in Boston right now, where most of his fans are. But yeah, this whole thing was going to happen. And to use your words, yeah, definitely batshit crazy.
Ben, because his contract is up this year, why would he agree to more years with Tampa if indeed he wants to be in Miami? Like, the contract's up. He could just come to Miami next year.
Agreed. And to me, it's still about whether the Miami deal is still on the table. I don't know if it necessarily is. I think maybe they want to see how this lawsuit all plays out. And I think Brady liked playing in Tampa. I mean, he came back to the Bucs. I think the problem may have been solved when they asked Bruce Arians to move into a front office consulting role and kind of got him out of the equation. I think that was one issue that Brady probably had last year, was too many chefs in the kitchen there in Tampa. Like, they have a very experienced staff, Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich, and Harold Godwin is their assistant head coach. He's been a coordinator. Like, Bruce Arians was kind of in the way a little bit from stalling those guys' progress as coaches. So I don't know. I could see, like, when Brady went over to the United Kingdom a few weeks ago to the Manchester United game, I don't know what was said between the Glazers and Brady, but I could very well see a scenario where they said, look, we'll take care of it. We don't want you playing in any other uniform other than the Bucs, so we'll take care of you. Whatever you need, we'll get it done. So, again, I'm looking to Brady's next contract for clues. If it's just a 1-year pay raise, Miami's in play. If they have more years tacked on, then I'm thinking he's probably going to be, staying in Tampa Bay.
But take us through the timeline, Ben, because this included, the reporting that you're doing here includes not only the first things I'm reading about the Arians thing is in a small way tied to Brady. It wasn't the determining factor, but Arians, your reporting and the combination of details here make this story even crazier when you go through the timeline. So explain to us what happened with the retirement, with the Schefter report, with Sean Payton. Take us through exactly how it is. That Monday would have been different if Tom Brady, if the Brian Flores lawsuit doesn't happen and Brady is just making his own decisions.
No doubt. I'll try to keep it to the elevator version because it's kind of a convoluted story. But yeah, so Brady steps down on February 1st, and that's the same morning that Flores files his lawsuit. So just awful timing for Brady. But Brady was joined at the hip with Sean Payton. And I know that seems a little weird, but they've been friends in the NFL for 20 years. They share the same agent, Don Yee. And, they've existed on opposite ends of the NFL. Peyton's close with Belichick. They don't really compete with each other. So Brady and Payton are tight. Brady, if he's going to go to Miami and run the show, he's not going for any old coach. He wants a coach he can trust that he knows can win.
Forgive me, Ben. Let me just stop you here. Dude, did Payton retire with the idea of deciding that he and his agent and Brady had already worked it out? And so Payton was leaving with the idea of being here 6 months later.
No, great question. You're a much better storyteller than I am. So thank you for leading me here, Dan. No, Sean Payton stepped down. I believe it was on the 25th of January. So about a week before Brady's retirement. And what struck me as odd was Payton's given this grand goodbye in New Orleans. Everyone's wishing him well and so long, farewell. And yet he says in his retirement press conference, yeah, I'll probably coach again, probably pretty soon. Like I've never seen that at a retirement press conference before. And so the wheels were in motion. Now the Saints controlled his contractual rights, much like the Bucs controlled Brady. So the Dolphins were going to have to trade for Sean Payton, and the Saints, I believe, have come out and said the Dolphins have contacted them. They didn't get very far, but that's because I think the plans got blown up. But yes, they're going to have to trade for Payton. They're going to have to bring Brady on as an executive. The wheels were all in motion. So yes, they're connected through Don Yee, the agent. That was how it was all going to happen. The lawsuit gets filed. You know, and then reporting at the same time is coming out that the relationship between Brady and Arians wasn't so rosy. And I don't think so. So when Brady announced his retirement, he didn't use the R word. He never actually said the word retirement. He just said, I'm not going to make that competitive choice anymore, something along those lines. And that was, he used those words very deliberately. So he was not retiring as much as he was just saying goodbye to Tampa. So he was going to come down, and he announced his retirement on February 1st. And if he had his druthers before the Super Bowl on February 13th. So sometime that week in Los Angeles, Stephen Ross was going to announce that Tom Brady was coming aboard. So it was all in motion, and then it all got scrapped. The connection with Stephen Ross, obviously, you guys know, big University of Michigan guy. Brady's the star Michigan alumnus. Bruce Beal, Brady. I saw Dave Hyde in the Sun Sentinel. He wrote this morning that Brady at the Super Bowl a few years ago was at a party at Bruce Beal's house in Star Island. So there's obviously a whole connection there. So all the wheels were in motion, and then it all fell apart. And now Brady's back to being a Buccaneer.
Ben, do you think Flores knew of the Payton Brady plan?
It's a great question. And it goes even a step further. People think that Belichick is really the one pulling the strings here. Belichick knew of the Brady-Payton relationship, and so Belichick sent the text to Brian Flores, which then kicked off the lawsuit, which then squashed the Brady plan. So if you really want to get in the weeds
come
on.
No, I want to get into the weeds.
Wait a minute.
I love weeds.
All right, you want to get into the weeds? Let's get into the weeds, Volin. This is ridiculous conspiracy theory. Did you just allege, with the credibility of the Boston Globe behind you, that Belichick purposely created a cloud of racism to disorient and confuse Brian Flores into suing his own team because Belichick's a genius?
I mean, as much as I would love to believe the conspiracy theories, I don't think that's the case this time. Honestly, I don't think Dolphins knew the lawsuit was coming. I don't think Brady did. I don't think Belichick did. I think it's just a series of events that kind of led down this.
I'm not kidding you guys.
It's the best part of the story.
But I'm not kidding you guys when I tell you we will go to any length to mythologize these geniuses if what we're doing here is Belichick's confusing Brian Daboll with Brian Flores on his phone because he's an old man and the gadgets are confusing, becomes the genius of keeping Brady away from the Dolphins by tricking Flores, the opposing coach in the division, into thinking that something's racist when it's not.
The rare intentional accidental text.
Bingo.
It's unbelievable. I will not allow that as a conspiracy theory, but you're telling me that before the Super Bowl, they were going to make the splash of Brady a Dolphin. Can you believe it? And how soon thereafter is he coming heroically from the box where he's an executive to be the quarterback of the team?
He should have started every game that way. He's up in the box and comes down to play quarterback.
In at halftime, you used Tua in the first half, and you just
to remind you who's running this organization.
You got Brady you got him in the owner's suite wearing a uniform.
The eye black and the helmet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So the only issue is he was going to be offered like a small ownership stake and run the front office. But I think the ownership thing would have had to wait until after he really truly finished playing, because with the NFL, all compensation has to be accounted for in the salary cap. And if you're an owner and you're making 37, whatever, he'd have to put his ownership stake probably in a trust or something like that. So it'd be a lot easier for him just to say, all right, I'm the team president now, but I'm going to leave the front office and go play quarterback. And then once he's truly done, then maybe he gets the ownership stake. So that would have been the only issue. But yeah, he definitely was going to be, the plan was for him to run the show and eventually come back and play for the Dolphins. And it's still in play. We'll see. But
the way this all sounds, Ben, no joke, it sounds like all of this would have been talked about and finalized. Like, it sounds like Tom Brady would already know what his ownership stake was going to be, and that the Dolphins had probably already researched what does this mean against the salary cap. And furthermore, they were trying to get Brady on the cheap because Arians is out here putting his name on. It would take 5 first-round picks to get Tom Brady from us, and you're sitting here telling us that they were about to get him for like some secret third-round pick, just that they gave away because Brady decided after 2 games he wasn't going to be president anymore. He was going to be the quarterback.
Yes, I guess I am telling you all that stuff. And when Bruce Arians said the 5 first-round picks, he was just talking off the cuff. And to me, it was a sign that he was not – I don't think he or the Bucs GM were really in the loop. I mean, they talked about they left the light on for Brady, but they didn't know what he was planning. And they didn't know he was going to be coming back. And I think Bruce was just kind of shooting from the hip there. But, yeah, I mean, I definitely think the Dolphins and Brady and Sean Payton, they had all this stuff ironed out. I think this was in the works for a while. And it just all kind of blew up in their face. So, yeah, I do think they had most of the details ironed out, and it was going to happen. And
Ben, am I hearing you right? Am I hearing you right that statement by Tom Brady that we took to mean retirement after Adam Schefter reported that he was retiring, that statement was only goodbye to Tampa Bay, and that weeks later he planned to just shift to the Dolphins, but Brian Flores having, 3 hours later or whenever it was, Brian Flores' lawsuit comes out. You're saying that's the deterrent, that he was just saying goodbye to Tampa. It was not, and that's the reason that he wasn't thanking the Patriots and everything in that statement.
Me and Billy tried to tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. That was the big story up here. Why is Tom Brady snubbing us? Well, he wasn't really saying goodbye to the Patriots. In fact, he was going to see them twice a year in his new arrangement. So that would have been
shit. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, this was all his way of getting out of Tampa, and that's why I think that he probably was going to spend the year not playing, but then come back in 23. I think he was going to do the front office thing, the business of the NFL thing. Take a year, because he also thanked his agent and his trainer. I really do think he was going to take the year and then make his valiant comeback next year, which we've seen athletes do all the time. So I'm a little skeptical that he was going to be the Dolphins quarterback this year, but the plan definitely.
All right, so
what a great story.
So you are saying, with no smile on your face, the plan to come back at 46 years old.
I've stopped disbelieving Tom Brady.
Okay, so
attaboy.
All right, so just a little sabbatical.
Dan,
sabbatical where he come back at 46.
In his prime, a little sabbatical in his prime.
Take a year off, rest up the knee a little bit, eat some avocados.
Of course.
There's no reason why Brady couldn't come back after a year off.
Ben, because this would go against leadership guy, focus on game to game, because deals like this don't happen overnight. Not when you're talking about ownership and being the quarterback for the Dolphins all at the same time. And
they never happen. It's not that they don't happen overnight. It's that they never happen.
But does it stand to reason that Brady was working on this with Don Yee while he was trying to win the Bucs another Super Bowl?
Sean Payton the way you're describing things, Sean Payton had to have retired because all of this had been worked out.
Yeah, and Sean Payton, his season was done January 9th, and he's, I'm sure, been looking for a way to get out now for a few years. He's been there for 15 years, and I think most notably, they don't have a quarterback, and I don't think he wanted to go through that whole song and dance again with trying to find a quarterback. So I think he's known for a little while that he's going to be leaving. I think Brady, probably for most of the fall, was not loving the Bucs. I mean, they had a bad injury situation. I think the relationship with Arians soured. I think Brady's used to playing for a team that's maybe a little more buttoned up than what the Bucs were last year. So I don't think so. Yes, they probably were thinking about it for a while, but Stephen Ross has probably planted this idea in Brady's ear for years now. I mean, this is not something that just came up overnight. Stephen Ross has long had an affinity for Tom Brady and has long wanted to stick it to the Patriots, as the team's biggest rival and the team that always stands in his way. So, yes, I'm sure they were working on it during the season. I don't have actual reporting to back that up, so don't say Ben Volin says. But I would imagine, yes, they've been working on it for a while, and I don't think that this is something that Stephen Ross just thought of willy-nilly. This is something he's probably been working on for a while.
Ben, I will let you go now. Thank you for your time.
No, don't go yet. Before you go, is it possible that in the game against the Rams, this was in the back of Brady's head, and he said, you know what, if I prolong this season, I could be throwing things off. Maybe, I won't be able to play for the Dolphins if I get hurt in the NFC champion. One of those situations. Like he kind of maybe tossed that game a little. Yeah.
Tanking, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not going to
look into it.
I'm not accuse Brady of tanking a game so that he could be the Dolphins owner, but you know what? They made the big comeback at the end. So
Yeah, but
but they lost.
Exactly.
And he never loses. So,
Close,
I mean,
but no
He
cigar.
tanked the game by burning Jalen Ramsey at the end of the game.
yeah, but they lost. And
Yeah.
again, Brady never loses.
You make it look close.
Yeah. Ben, look
Actually,
into it
before
for
I
us.
go-
Dig deeper, okay?
Before I go real quick, I have to address this slander from Stugotz at the top.
What do you mean?
I have never once tweeted about F1.
Lies.
I never watch it. I don't even know what F1 stands for. So how dare you accuse me of that?
All right.
Thank you,
I'll
Ben.
check your timeline.
We appreciate that. We appreciate your reporting. And honest to God, you laugh at the absurdity of, well, he wouldn't tank in order to become, the most powerful man. And yet, is it any more absurd than what actually happened? I believe their theory more than I believe your reporting, and your reporting is accurate, but this is batshit crazy. Like, what you're talking about would have reverberated like the power in the NFL. And one final bleep you from Tom Brady to Belichick, I'm going to do it in my division at 46. Like, get out of here. What is that?
It's the tremendous theater that is the NFL. You got to love it.
September 6, 2015, at Ben Volin, F1 driver Lewis Hamilton was accused of winning the Italian Grand Prix on underinflated tires. He was not sanctioned.
Boom! What you got,
Well, that was a
Volin?
Deflategate tweet. That was a Deflategate tweet.
We got you. Our investigation revealed you thought you were the investigator, and we just did some gotcha journalism on you, Volin.
Ben, there's a bigger story here. Dig deeper, okay? Billy and I just plant seeds, all right? You do the rest of the work.
Will do, Stu, guys. Credit to you,
F1
buddy.
expert Ben Volin with us from the Boston Globe. I'm sorry, Ben, that we had to do that to you. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you, guys. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Ben.
Getting back, Billy, to the Jazz Chisholm conversation and grandpa managing your kids is basically what I'm asking you about.
I mean, Tony La Russa did it and had amazing success last year. That team won 100
but
games,
That
got
was
to the
not because
playoffs.
of Tony La Russa. Get out of here.
Billy, no team wins because of a manager. I'm just saying it kind of doesn't matter.
Okay, it might not matter, but LaRussa's probably not doing, and you've seen it in his relationship with his minority players,
Right.
LaRussa's probably not doing any generational bridge building. And so I'm asking you guys again, the manager of the Marlins in a season that does have some expectations, because it might not have been a lot of spending, but it's spending for them, and they expect him to win. And if he does not win this year, he will not be here, I would imagine, the year afterward, because he is not he's a Jeter leftover, Yankee past, all that stuff. And he's managing this team now, and he needs to start strong. There are some expectations around this team, and this is his young player, one of the few good young offensive players that he has, and that player has gone to Twitter, and this is a whole new thing to deal with. Managers, La Russa and Twitter, Stugotz, come on. Like, managers don't like this stuff. They don't like the disruptions of the distractions. Even if you think managers don't matter, this is the kind of stuff that if Jazz Chisholm is unhappy in that locker room, it'll become a thing for him. It'll become a thing that Mattingly has to handle, as now those jobs become, you just manage people. And what I'm asking you is, how do you bridge the gulf when you're a grandpa?
You don't want to lose Jazz, I would think, if you're going to lose someone in the locker room, just because he's the guy that they seem to be putting out. Like, look, this is fun, young, this is our future, Jazz, look how exciting he is. Like, you don't want to be, the Braves with Jazz here and be like the, McCann and tell him no fun, don't tweet, don't do this, don't do that. Like, don't lose Jazz. Just play him. What difference does it make?
I always feel like I get to be because everyone's anti-Donnie, so I'm trying to defend him. It could just be he wanted to get everybody some at-bats the first weekend, and it'll be fine, for the season.
John Birdie.
I mean, I already said I would have played Jazz, but he wants to get everyone at-bats the first
But
weekend.
that is part of the managing of people that I was just talking about. Why are you doing that? It's to make your clubhouse happy. It's to allow the guys who are on the first road trip of the season to get some at-bats at the start of a long season.
What's wrong with a happy clubhouse,
Well,
though?
but Billy's saying, no, play your best players, play Jazz, and plenty of people were arguing. He had a big hit the night before, and he's one of your best players. You should be playing him a lot. He's one of your only exciting offensive
He hit a
players.
goal-ahead home run in the ninth inning. We blew the save, so it didn't actually end up in a win. win, but it was like a monster hit the very next day, bench for John Birdie. It's weird.
But
I would have punted. Like, if Donnie had the plan to start Birdie game 2, once Jazz hits that late home run, you're like, okay, you want to... If a guy pinch hits and hits a home run, sometimes they'll start him the next day. It just doesn't make sense to sit a guy who hits a home run.
But if the idea is get the clubhouse happy, like, he clearly failed at that because he upset.
Well, he made Jazz. I don't know how the rest of the clubhouse feels about it.
John Birdie's going to get in every game. John Birdie gets in every single game. He'll pinch run. He'll do something. Like, I guess you're trying to get him a couple at bats, but this is the person that put you in a position to win the day before. You start doing the lefty-lefty thing. Like, well, is he just never going to bat against lefties? Like, whenever he's a lefty pitcher?
Donnie hasn't changed. He's been doing this kind of annoying stuff for like 5 years. So to his
Donnie baseball.
In his defense, he manages the way he manages. The Marlins seem to like him. Like, if this was anyone but Jazz, I would agree with Donnie. But Jazz is the guy I would just... Because, like, the Marlins don't have a lot of other guys like Jazz where I'm thinking this guy needs to play every time. Like, if it's Brian Anderson coming out game 2, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but he's hitting,
Brian Anderson.
He's hitting like 150.
But that's the point.
Enough with Brian Anderson.
Yeah,
What do you
right.
guys, are you guys here with me? Enough
I'd rather
with
have Joey
Brian
Wendell.
Anderson.
You were dismissing Joey Wendell. I actually think he might be a better player than Brian Anderson.
I was dismissing Joey Wendell. On the broadcast, you said, who is this Joey Wendell guy?
No, that was not that was not Joey. I had notes on Joey Wendell. That was not the guy I said who is.
We
But
play
no-
the sound.
What?
Huh?
Replay it. I don't think I knew who Joey Wendell was.
All right, we'll find the sound then.
I
Whittingham.
really don't care about this debate.
Yeah, no, but like a couple minutes ago, you were like,
I'm good not finding out the true answer
Yeah.
to whether or not Chris knew who Joey Wendell was.
But wouldn't retweeting of criticism of Don Mattingly or Jazz Chisholm getting upset before game 2 indicate that this is not the first time that Jazz Chisholm and Don Mattingly have had issues? Like, you wouldn't go straight to problem solving on Twitter if this is the first time you got mad about something.
But I do think, though, that Whittingham, this might be you being an old person here, because I don't know how he handles things emotionally or what. I can't begin to speak to connecting with kids in this space, but I don't know if Jazz Chisholm, I mean, his quotes suggested, hey, this is who I am. I'm emotional, and I'm just going to sort of be, if people know when I'm in a good mood and when I'm not in a good mood, and this is what it looks like, and sometimes I'm going to retweet stuff emotionally. Like, he was not I don't know if we can assume previous issues, but they've got one now is what I'm saying. Like, whether they had one before or not, there's one here now, and Chisholm wants to play. You always want your guys to play. But when seasons have expectations and starts are slow.
I mean, but the expectations are for them to be a 500 team. Right. Like, it's not expectations like they're going to make the playoffs and go on a run. Like, I think the expectations and the most optimistic ones have been they'll win 15 games more than did last year, which is great, but that's like 82 wins. So it's still not going to get them anywhere. They're just, hopefully this is the year, maybe before the year, depending on if they spend the money that Bruce Sherman says that they have to spend, that they haven't presently spent yet, but they have and could maybe.
Spent some of.
I mean, he's 237 against lefties. It was a lefty starter that game, and Birdie had a run scored in the head. I mean, they scored 2. He scored one of them.
Donnie does this thing, lefty match. Like, he does the math. Birdie, a better career hitter against lefties than Jazz, but I want Jazz to get better at hitting against lefties.
Exactly.
You put Jazz out there every day and let him improve.
I'm over this bullshit. There's righties and there's lefties. You're playing baseball. Learn to hit a righty. Learn to hit a lefty. Enough of this whole a lefty's playing. I'm not. You know what? Now I'm upset with Jazz. Be better against lefties, Jazz, and then you won't give Donnie the opportunity to bench you for John Birdie. Okay? There's right-handed people and left-handed people. Don't discriminate against left-handed people and not bother figuring out how to hit against them. Hit against lefties and hit against righties.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me, audience. I just want you to understand what it is that we play with here in the local hour. I have erred terribly in not staying with the Ben Volin story because Tom Brady is easy money conversationally, especially when you have reporting that confirms that some of this stuff with the Dolphins was true.
You went back to Birdie.
Well, I went to John Birdie and Jazz Chisholm because Billy is so much more interested in that.
Not Brady tanking playoff games, Dan. That was a big revelation.
This is an old story to me and Billy. I mean,
yeah,
it really is.
Billy's worldview in sports is upside down, where you see how fired up you can get him on Jazz Chisholm.
told you years ago Donnie Baseball was all about getting everybody in. That's why we called him Donnie T-Ball, because every game everyone had to play. I told you before.
I don't think it's we that called him Donnie T-Ball. Are you now a bot? Are you a bot Marlins propagandist? Because I think.
What do you mean?
The way you have a relationship with the Marlins now that this show has not had.
I keep it real, Dan.
So you're going to be able to be critical and.
I just crushed Jazz. I told him learn how to hit against lefties.
That's right.
And I crushed them. I crushed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I've told you guys for years, if you love the Marlins, you hate the Marlins. That's how it works. You have to not love them all. You have to be very angry with them, or you just don't care.
My biggest problem with the Marlins so far this season is Jacob Stalling, their catcher, over-framing. I know this is in the weeds. Nobody knows here what I'm talking about.
I caught a couple people talking about this in a donut shop the other day.
Everyone's complaining about umpires at Marlins Twitter, and it's Jacob Stalling, the catcher's fault. He's doing this thing where he's taking clear balls and he's like trying to bring them in too far, and it's like that's clearly a ball. And then he's losing the close ones because he's over framing everything. He's like a little leaguer. Like this is clearly not a strike.
He's been good so far. Yeah,
not defensively. I want you to watch the Marlins.
He's thrown
tonight.
out a bunch of people.
It's 9:40 against the Angels. I'm sure everyone's going to tune in.
No, it's a 7. It's getaway day, 7:07.
Okay, even better.
That's my problem with the Marlins. Why the hell are you starting on the left coast? You know what I mean?
That was
the West
Coast.
Coast.
They had a lockout, yeah.
Yeah, so?
Again, Tom Brady.
And we really got away from that one.
He wanted to be here.
He's going to be the minority owner of the Dolphins.
I'm still.
And their quarterback.
I'm still stunned at how different the sensibilities of Chris and Billy are to what is good sports conversation, because he went to
you brought him back to
overframing. I didn't bring anybody.
I've had that in the holster for a few weeks. Even though the season started Friday. Saw it at spring training. Am I allowed to be upset with Brian Flores?
It's a good question.
I'm glad you brought it back, because you did 15 minutes on the second most interesting baseball team in Miami after finding out that the Dolphins totally blew it with Tom Brady.
I want to answer Chris Cody's question.
Because I'm scared. I want to be upset with Brian Flores, but I feel like I'm not allowed.
I believe that this show is really at the precipice of moral conundrums here between virtue signaling and fandom, as we've been for a couple of months. And I believe that right here is the spot where we get shaken at our core on, wait a minute, am I okay with racism for another day in just the Dolphin facilities so that they can have Tom Brady? That's the position we're in as a show right now.
And Sean Payton.
They also, but they needed a lot longer of a window, though, because this plan was going to unspool over a very lengthy period of time.
Whittingham, do you realize?
It was a long time.
But do you realize how disastrous it is to send out the press release and hours later, this is a curse. This is, the Dolphins are haunted by some spiritual realm that has a great sense of humor. Brady doesn't actually retire, somehow makes a press release that all of us are like, well, that's retirement, isn't it? But no, it was coded. It was secret messaging to the Dolphins. It was the love language of, we've already got a deal over here, and a long con where the Dolphins are going to be able to trick Arians into trading Brady for nothing.
And it all unspooled because Belichick caught wind of it and sent a fake text to Brian Flores.
Wow, genius.
Someone knew something. The timing is way too coincidental on all of this.
This episode is Brady Illuminati. This is I am disoriented, and Jazz Chisholm talking over framing.